Hi everyone, welcome to the Jupyter Frontends and Jupyter Server and Kernels call. Today is October 1st and we are recording for the YouTube channel. So just as a reminder to everyone, we do follow the Jupyter Code of Conduct, which is linked in our notes that I will share once more in the Zoom chat. And we can get started with the meeting. I think up first we have Illy.
Thanks, Rosia. Hi, everyone. I'm back to announce the next Jupyter Open Studio Day that Bloomberg will be hosting this time in San Francisco, as long promised to this group. So this will be on Monday, November 10th, which is the week after JupyterCon. The idea being that while San Francisco is not actually too close to where JupyterCon is being hosted, if you're traveling from much further away, it may be sort of convenient to just extend your trip a little bit and pop on up and get a little more time to work with everyone, maybe follow up on something that you got excited about at JupyterCon, or maybe if you can't attend JupyterCon, come and hear from folks who were there about how it went. Or work on anything at all that interests you that's related to Jupyter. I think at this point, most everyone in here has heard spiels about Open Studio Days and or attended Open Studio Days in the past, so I won't extend this too much longer, but yeah, just excited to see anyone who can come, and please share along the registration link to anyone in your network who you think would be interested or could connect folks who would like to come. Yeah, I posted on Discourse this morning, and when I can get my computers to cooperate, I will get it onto Zulip as well.
I had a quick question. So
Yeah.
amazing to hear. Quick question from like a Jupyter Media Strategy standpoint. Would you like to maybe promote this? So we can just make a social media post. We can do something else, but I guess the thing that you posted in chat, in of itself, could very easily be converted to social media post without any additional work, kind of, right?
Sure.
So we currently operate LinkedIn, right, in terms of social media,
Mhm.
then Hechiderm, which is essentially Mastodon, and Blue Sky. So yeah, LinkedIn especially is a pretty large amount of people in San Francisco in particular, I would say.
I think that would be great. Yeah. Thank you.
Could you shoot us just kind of a minimal request to our email? I can post it in the chat.
Yes.
Super minimal request, kind of like your message in the chat would be sufficient. Awesome, thank you. I'll post an email in the chat.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Illy and Andre, for that. Yeah, I think that was the first thing that came to mind too. Just wondering if that could be shared by the media strategy group. So it's nice that that's gonna happen. I think that up next we have Mike.
Hello, everyone. So I wanted to mention that JupyterLab 4.5 beta is out. This importantly includes the content visibility mode as the default windowing mode, which, as confirmed by testing, is a good compromise between the performance and fixes the issues with full windowing mode, which was default before. It is out for testing. However, when trying to update Jupyter Lite, we encountered some issues with Jeremy, where it might be that there is a problem with rendering in Firefox, but most definitely there is an issue with when creating new cells, new markdown cells. There is an editor breakage, so it's not necessarily ready to be deployed. Like our canary testing indicates that there is a big issue, but hopefully this could be addressed soon and we can release another beta and spread the news further. The remaining item before broadcasting that is probably collecting a little bit more organized release notes for users regarding new features and changes so that they know what to test. I also believe that a beta of Notebook has been released as well. I think Jeremy is not on the call, but yeah, Jupyter Lite shipping both of these should be available soon too because the PR was merged. One idea that we bounced in the Zulip chat was that potentially later in the beta or in RC we could change the try.jupyter.org to use the beta version, and I want to gather like a quick feedback whether people think that this is a good idea or a bad idea. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what our CNAME's like up in there, but I mean, it seems like offering your beta nightly that you know you've got potential downstream bugs already in as the default first experience that you get when you land in there might be a negative experience for some people. So perhaps there is a play for a call to action as, I don't know, build a lab extension and overload the notifications. I don't know, and say like, hey, this is all the things we built out of JupyterLab stable and Light stable, and here's the versions you're looking at. Please try this over on this other one and have a separate deployment that has the other version. Crucially, when JupyterLite's involved on another domain. So that would be like trythefuture.jupyter.org or something like that, right? I mean, there's just so many. Yeah, I don't know. That would be my feeling, but that sounds more complicated, unfortunately. But if it's easy to add
So
new
complicated as in working the repo and configuring a domain redirect, or?
No, I mean, it's just another domain. It's just another thing to have to stand up and manage and make sure the certs are right and all that. But if it's a wild card, then maybe it's fine, But indeed, having a place where both of them are deployed pretty much exactly the same way. One of them would have a message that says, please go try the betas. We're in beta cycle. Go do the thing. And one that has, this is beta. If you are encountering problems, please consider reporting them. Whatever. Like that might be the distinction there. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's ours. And if we're not getting feedback on betas, that would get feedback on betas. And the thing there would then be to make the friction to reporting an issue easier. The lowest friction is going to be email. So give someone an email, thing or whatever. But, requiring a Google thing is not great, and requiring a Microsoft thing is not great. So if you want feedback, it's got to be really easy to give the feedback with helpful information. And that's a whole other challenge. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, these are good points. And certainly we are not ready to switch to the beta yet. We are not confident enough, and we know of like big bugs, big issues right now. But maybe at RC phase, maybe we could revisit and right now investigate the separate subdomain. And it also answers kind of my other question that I was thinking about, whether we should broadcast a notification using the Jupyter News system. But it seems it's not, we are not ready to encourage everyone to test the new version.
Yeah.
But if it was a separate notification channel for Jupyter Try or try.jupyter.org, maybe we could just do that. Maybe we could display this notification only on the Try demo, whatever we call it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that would, that would be productive. If there is analytics, or it's going to be analytics, it's just got to have a privacy policy and all that. Like there's just, once it's not just a static web host and you're starting to do stuff with it, then people get antsy, and rightly so. Yeah, indeed. Even those sites, those should not be like, they should have mirrors of the packages. It shouldn't be hitting piedide CDN. I don't know what the hell's going on. Like there's a bunch of things that should probably be tightened up for those public resources to make them more sovereign.
Okay, I think let's move on to the next point, which is I'm basically working on an application where JupyterLab, or a version of JupyterLab, Jupyter Frontend, is embedded. And because it's embedded within a much larger thing, which is a React thing, I was trying to embed it properly without usage of third-party wrappers. And currently, I was thinking it is nice that we can create an application, but could we also be able to dispose of it? Because while a lot of our constructs, classes implement a disposable interface, the application itself doesn't. So I opened an issue in Lumina and just wanted to see if anyone encountered that before or has thoughts about, even if not adding that as a public interface, at least making it easier for subclasses to enable this, because currently there's many things which happen in the constructor of application which make adding the functionality to dispose the resources held by the app pretty difficult. As for example, there is like a command registry, and because this command registry is created and then passed to different objects, if I wanted to dispose of the commands registered in it, I would need to modify all these references. I just cannot provide a new one in the application unless we modify the constructor to actually take a custom command registry at the initialization time. So this is issue 766 on Lumina. If anyone has thoughts, please do leave a comment or speak now.
Mike, is this for embedding JupyterLab and maybe some other application? Is that the context? Okay.
Yeah, JupyterLab or something smaller. Like there are many ways to decompilables and reassemble JupyterLab components into a smaller application, which is more tailored to different potential usages. So yeah, that's exactly the case. And in that setup, even ignoring React for a while, it is possible for a user to open an applet with an application, which is a Jupyter application, and then want to close it and not to have the resources polluting the rest of the web application in which they were running it.
is your proposal essentially auditing where we are accepting outside resources like a callback handler, stuff like this, and anywhere the basic application is, storing a handle to those, releasing that handle?
So I think I'm advocating for two things, two different levels. One level is anything which goes into the constructor in application. It needs to be, it should be possible to swap it. So that's make it possible for subclasses. And second is actually making the application inherit from, well, not inherit, implement the disposable and have a dispose method. Because almost every single thing in JupyterLab, every single class that we use, except for command registry and command palette, already implements this interface. So disposing of these resources would be as simple as just calling dispose on everything, every member of the application class.
Yeah, I mean, we've had people ask for this like time and time again on Jupyter Lite. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot to do that. There's references to window that you're not going to want. There's event handlers that stuff are being injected on page. I mean, you want it gone, put it in an iframe, kill it off. I don't know. I mean, that's the only. And the other thing is,
I'm trying to escape the iframe.
which is precise. It's a lot harder to escape an iframe with arbitrary user code, because the iframe model can actually help you there. If everything is all running in the hot DOM, you can't isolate anything. We can tell you stories about how secure it is, but anytime that I've wanted to embed JupyterLab, that's been the first thing is, okay, we're going to need throwaway CNAME domains per user per session. Otherwise, your stuff's going to leak all over the place. And there's no, if you get, if you're using cookies and JWTs and all the other browser security stuff, that's all hand wavy. The sandbox iframe is real. The browsers actually do that. So yeah, I don't know. Because defining that, now you got to define a whole new threat model.
Yeah, but this is up to the implementer to handle, right? It is not responsibility of Lumino or JupyterLab to ensure that the threat model for these use cases is addressed.
I think you're right, Mike, that, as good practice, right now, we just let all the teardown happen on the page, which is what Nick is saying. Like, let the page just tear down everything. But yeah, if it's easy for us to implement a dispose method, make it easy to clean up those resources, like we have a pattern there, we can do that, and I don't see a problem with that.
And the other question here could be, should we implement that in Lumino or JupyterLab? With potentially implementing that in JupyterLab being less impactful, but I think Lumino makes sense. Anyways, my third topic, but which is close related to that.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead, Arthur.
Mike, can I quickly ask a question about this? So, I'm sorry, statement about this and question about the previous thing. So, generally, this makes a lot of sense overall. Implementing disposable to me, kind of on all components. Maybe to me, I don't understand the complications that it introduces, but from my point of view, benefits that introduces potentially is like ability to potentially use multiple front ends and back ends, right? As being more atomic, so to speak, and independent, which makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that's it about that. I had another question. So do you think we should announce beta or should we hold off for now? And if we should announce beta, then should we explicitly talk about like, hey, we introduced new mode, we would really like people to test it?
I think what we should talk about specifically is a best conversation to happen on a. It would be best to have a PR to discuss that. So basically, a draft release notes, pulling things which were tagged as feature, and then we can like iterate on that. I don't know, is there any volunteer who would like to write a release changelog or release notes for this release anytime soon? Otherwise, I can probably do that early next week.
Maybe I would like to help with the release notes. I think that I could start maybe as an issue or right underneath the issue with the current like items in the milestone. Would that be the place to discuss what we would include?
So we already have an issue, and usually what we did is the release planning issue, which is pinned in the repository. We were starting from there and then going through the changelog and basically asking everyone, hey, do you think we should include anything else there? And then adding a brief paragraph about each major feature or grouping them together and adding a snapshot or two, sorry, a screenshot or two.
Okay.
So if you'd like to open a draft PR, just going by what is in the release tracking issue, that would be fine, and already some progress, and we can collaborate on that.
Okay. Sense.
Is it planned to have more betas before JupyterCon?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think often we have 3 or 4 betas before moving to RC, and these beta in particular has an own issue with the newly introduced windowing mode, which is like a highlight of this release in a sense. So we would want to fix it and release a new beta as soon as possible.
Okay, nice.
Okay, so the last issue that I opened some time ago and wanted to mention on this call is again about reloading extensions. And originally, when I was working on reloading extensions, the use case was for the Playground plugin. So users could create plugins by writing in the browser, even JupyterLab on Binder, and activate those, change a little bit, activate again. Now the problem was that you just end up with hundreds of plugins, and if there were side effects, you basically needed a mechanism to deactivate the previous version of the plugin and clean up the resources. So since Lumino version 2, which was a couple of years back, we now have deactivate in addition to the activate in the plugin, but we are not using it really. So that's one part. And the other is that quite a few plugins currently have or use some objects which are stored in the private namespace, and they use them as singletons, which would be fine, except that if you try to reload that, they either emit a warning or break totally, and you're not able to reload the extension. So I'm basically asking for these instances which are highlighted, does anyone object to rewriting that so instead the singleton is held in the extension instance, rather the extension plugin. Or yeah, I think the thing which plugin returns is often called on the API level a service, but let's call it in the plugin object. And if no one objects to eradicating this pattern of keeping some data stored in the private namespace, I would like to open a pull request proposing to make it so that we can deactivate some of the extensions and maybe gradually start adding the deactivate methods in JupyterLab itself.
Mike, I love that you're bringing this up for discussion here. These sound like pretty good programming practices in general. How do we get this more institutionalized? A discussion here is important, but it needs to go beyond a discussion in a synchronous video call. Is there a place in the docs, for example, that we have recommended practices for plugins that we can mention these points?
Yeah, so that's a good question, whether we want to do that in general and to what extent we would want to do it. Because previously when we introduced the activate method in Lumino, I recall the conversation being that it's not a requirement for extensions to have deactivate. It is optional. And this resulted in nothing having the activate method except for an example on the plugin playground. I still wouldn't want to enforce that on extension authors to have to write deactivate, because for many use cases this will not be required. But it feels like a good practice for JupyterLab itself to be able to clean up after itself, which would also enable hot reloading and much better interactive development experience if we integrated that more deeply with, say, Webpack hot reloader. And it's a separate discussion. So yeah, if the general consensus is that, yeah, we should probably do that, we should encourage adding the activate method, I think we could start adding it piece by piece, and maybe by the next release enforce that in tests that all plugins have some, even if these are just stubs, so that for new plugins we would have that always included, at least for JupyterLab core.
Yeah, the hot reloading seems like it is less of an incentive for JupyterLab core because you're building the application the whole time. Or can we make it an incentive in JupyterLab core to have a deactivate method? Because we can insist on we can put a recommendation in the guide. We can insist on the recommendation being followed either through CI, or just socially, culturally, etc. But it's really great if we have the incentive that aligns with it, so that people want to follow the recommendation, that they see an impact in their lives, a positive impact in their lives for following the recommendation. So third-party extensions, you can do the hot reloading things. Is there incentive other than good practices, that will help make people's lives better for doing this in the core?
Yeah, that's one of it. One thing is hot reloading. The other thing is the ability to demonstrate plugin swapping with the plugin playground. So that would be also a good thing to have. These are mostly incentives for maintainers and developers who are deep into the code base, but it's fine because this is who we would be targeting these recommendations for. It's just that, as Nick points out, implementing hot reload might be time expensive, like time consuming, and then it might take some time to maintain. I haven't looked into the Webpack integration yet, or whether that would be supported by RSPack or other alternatives. But in principle, it is possible. After the meeting, I will add a note to, like, if this is going to be enforced, we should also make sure that the incentives are there.
I mean, if you add a new plugin base class, that's a subclass of plugin that just requires deactivate, and we start using it internally, then Bob's your uncle. You know, eventually, if someone wants to continue using the bad one, that is what it is. You know, but if it doesn't do anything, like for example, signals, right? Like, how many times have I rewritten the exact same code that when you activate, listen to these signals. When you deactivate, stop listening to these signals. You know, like motivations there for, hey, if you use this, when you shut it off, I'm going to turn off all your signals. I'm going to remember your signals for you. And it's going to clean it up for free. Like, keep driving that requirement down to writing good stuff by making more of the things that we know you have to do automatic. You know, if a plugin, I mean, you don't always do it at a plugin layer. You might do it at a manager layer or something like that, right? But like, dang, I mean, if nobody likes the signal management. It works really well though, and it doesn't kill your whole application if one thing screws up, like React nonsense. So, you know, making that feel better would be huge. Another way to think about it is rethink the whole life cycle of how a plugin works, and it would still be compatible, you know, with the upstream API. Guess what? All your plugins, they're all async generators, and we're gonna yield to you when you initialize. We're gonna yield to you when you be running, and then we're gonna yield to you when it's time to tear it down, so that you write one function, and it just does that. You know, like that's the kind of stuff that we could start getting to. Here's your one boilerplate file. Inside of here, lazily load your implementation when you're activated, you know, when you're actually needed to do something according to the application. And because again, how many PRs have we gone through adding lazy loading of your giant data analysis package or giant visualization package? Like, figuring out ways to make those part of the same API rather than adding new APIs would feel really nice. So I think there's some different patterns for getting back to something more like the old, I got a handle on Notebook and I'm going to do stuff to it, you know, like that whole thing, that whole bridge API and all that. You would need something that normalized every possible foot gun, put them all in the safe. You know, you can open the safe if you got it, but they're going to stay over there for the most part. Yeah, I don't know.
I have to say, I really, it's captivating, the idea of you just have a generator function. And we are actually in this age that we can use this in browsers without polyfills, so it's not only TypeScript. I don't know if that's like, it feels super clever and nice. I don't know if that's much easier for like lowering the curve for writing extensions. Maybe. But it could be like an alternative or parallel implementations of how plugins get hooked into the system. And definitely automatic clearing of signals on deactivate. That's something we could do. And it should be pretty easy. Now, the difficult part is, of course, things which are added into the DOM. We still could do that automatically in some sense, potentially by using observers, but tracing the origin of who added it is a bit more complex.
Yeah, I mean, there's no particular contract between an add-on and the DOM. You know, it's, did you make DOM? Good for you. You know, like some people slam stuff into the header area and then move on because they just want to add a button. You know, something like that. And that's, you know, that's in the whole other thing. Like, are there fully declarative ways that you could get down to? That, you know, here's a schema. We internationalized it. This is how you add a button, and you're going to drop into there and you're going to have access to the things that you said you needed access to and nothing else. And as long as you don't touch anything else and you just use commands and whatever, like, it's going to work. You know, anything that lets you drive down that massive boilerplate story. We had someone here a couple weeks ago, right? That was looking to do ES modules. Clearly the future, right? So what does a future contract look like that we abandon script tag and pray? You know, we abandon require.js and advocate for this is what modules could look like. All right, wow. You know, now I just have to know the name of something and then I get access to it. That's really neat. So, except you wouldn't get plugins, you would get modules. You wouldn't get a already initialized, you know, dependency injection graph, whatever. You'd get modules. Yeah, right. Require is incredible. There was nothing like require at the time. Just remember that. Any of these crazy things, module federation, there was nothing like that. Just anytime you find something insane, remember that we were doing it a couple years before the browsers and the bundlers and all the other people were doing it. But yeah.
As much as I would like to continue this discussion and propose crazy ideas, as I think a special token for the DOM so that extensions can declare that they will modify DOM and could only modify the DOM using this token. I think it's only 12 minutes until the end of the call, and we have some proposal for a presentation about something related to accessibility. So I think maybe we could continue the discussion on the issue or of the call and to the next point in the agenda.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I think being the first meeting of the month, I missed starting with accessibility. So thank you to these Berkeley folks. I think it's Balaji and Sanbin are up next on the agenda.
Hey
Hope
everyone.
I pronounced it right.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks. So just wanted to share a quick intro about the JupyterLab extension that we work, that myself, Balaji Alwar, have been part of the Jupyter Hub team at Berkeley, and Chanbin, who has been working with us as a student developer. So just wanted to share a brief intro about the extension, and also when we shared about this extension last time at this meeting, there was a feedback to use AxeDQ engine as part of its feature to test for accessibility issues. So just wanted to share some insights about our experience using Axe engine underneath. So yeah, like it might take 5 to 10 minutes. Is that okay? The presentation?
That sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, I'll pass it to Chanbin, who will do the presentation.
Yeah. Is it okay if I like share my screen? I have like a couple slides.
Yeah, go
Right.
ahead.
Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can see.
Yep.
Right, great. So yeah, so just want to first quickly mention that like our work kind of complements um the Jupyter's work on accessibility by focusing on notebook like authoring. So our extension is it can detect like common accessibility issues. Also, it provides like fix interfaces that the users can easily use to fix those issues, and also provide AI support. Because this is what our extension kind of looks like. So at first, like if the user hits the Analyze Notebook button, it kind of detects all the issues. It can locate the issue, and also it provides like different fix interfaces per issue. So for example, um, there's missing alternative text issue, and for this one, we would like to provide like a text box so that the user can easily input their alternative text corresponding to the image. And for other issues, for example, like wrong heading orders, we provide like a drop down box so that the user can choose whatever like heading that kind of matches their intent. And also on top of that, we provide like AI support so that the user, so in this case, if the user like kind of hits get AI suggestions, the LLM would kind of read the image and kind of generate like a sample alternative text corresponding to that image, and the user can kind of edit that and hit apply. So the way this works, we provide like a plug and play model support. So in the settings, you can kind of enter API endpoint, model name, etc. Yeah, so the one Balaji mentioned about like how like our experience with Axe Core, we wanted to kind of share that Axe Core wasn't enough. And the reason being, so we focused on 16 like most like frequent main accessibility issues from like a Jupyter Notebook study. I've sent like the slides link on the chat, so you guys could like actually like click on the link. But yeah, so first it was kind of insufficient. So Axe like couldn't detect 6 out of 16 issues, such as like table related issues, anchor elements related issues. And also for some issues like color contrast, was only capable of detecting color contrast for text like in HTML, not like text and images. So that was like one limitation. And also Axe isn't like Jupyter native. And what that means is that like, for example, missing image alternative text issues. So like for an image without like any alt tag, like when Jupyter renders it, it adds like a placeholder alt tag. I think it was like image, which is pretty like meaningless. So like when we feed that into Axe, Axe recognizes it, sorry, as valid alt tags. And also when like we try to like render it, when we try to render the raw markdown and then feed it to Axe, it does the same thing because an empty alt tag is added. So that was kind of bad. And also for other issues, for example, link in text block, it reports like unsure. I'm not sure why, but yeah, so Axe wasn't like perfectly enough. So we're kind of using like a hybrid approach of using Axe in the background, but also doing custom detection for the most important issues, we think. And you guys can check out the detailed explanation in this talk as well. Just wanted to quickly share our current status. We're currently in like a pilot mode with a few UC Berkeley courses, and we detected like around 700 issues in notebooks across 5 courses in 1 semester. So it's a pretty big issue, I guess. And it had over like 8,000 downloads. You guys can check out the status in this link as well. And yeah, I think you guys can kind of test out the extension if you guys want through this URL we prepared. So if you go into this URL and enter whatever username you want and enter this password, you guys can test out the extension with whatever notebook you guys have. I'll paste this link. Oh, Balaji, could you like kind of paste the URL and password, the link?
Will do. And Jason has a question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. First of all, wow, amazing. Thank you. If you two can add yourselves as attendees to the meetings, that'll help people know how to contact you or CC you on discussion that they wanted to follow up on. I'm curious what the audience here is. It seems like this is mostly about the end user auditing their notebooks to make sure that the notebook renders in an accessible fashion. So, for example, I would want the user to add an alt text to an image that they're including in Markdown, things like this. But some of the stuff seems like it's default in Jupyter, like, text rendering in an output may be more of a default in JupyterLab rather than a user fixed issue. So I'm curious if you have a clearly defined audience here. Is it the end user trying to fix their notebook code so that the notebook renders in a more accessible fashion? Or is it a mixed audience of, some things will be fixed by JupyterLab developers, some things will be fixed by the end user and what their code is doing?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jason. The end user for this extension is I think it's purely users who want their notebooks to be accessible. And one big use case is for, I guess, professors or instructors authoring their notebooks and kind of distributing it to students where they can and they want to make this notebook accessible, right? So that's that's where this extension kind of started, and we believe there's a lot of potential going beyond that.
And just to add to Chanbin's point, there is a need for universities comply with accessibility guidelines by April 2026. So one of our core goals is if any instructor wants to sanitize their notebook, check for common issues not the accessibility issues with the Jupyter interface. It's more missing alt text in their notebook or color contrast issues in their image they added or something like that. So that's the goal, I would say.
Yeah, and I see Mike as another question. Please go for it.
Yeah, there's more than one question. It is amazing extension, and thank you for developing that and sharing. Going through the presentation slides that you linked, I know that you are going to ask about feedback, and for that, on technical direction, I wonder, is the code of the extension open source?
Yeah, there's a GitHub repo. We will make sure to kind of paste that into the chat.
Okay, that's amazing. So my real question is rather reversing that feedback question to you and asking, what could JupyterLab or Jupyter Frontends in general do to make it easier to write this extension? Have you encountered any technical difficulties, problems like getting contents of cell or modifying it, anything at all? So one question is regarding Jupyter, if you did, I'd highly encourage you to open an issue on JupyterLab repo and with any suggestions about the interfaces. But on the other hand, I saw the AI integration, and it just happens that we have a discussion going on. I just linked that in the comment on Jupyter AI contrib regarding which components we are looking to systematize and make available as building blocks. So I just wanted to highlight that in case if you were thinking that maybe for calling AI, maybe there should be a shared component that we could reuse. If you would like to leave a comment there, it would be highly valuable. And accessibility also came up in that discussion. So just pointing you to that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate it.
I had a question for Chanbin Balaji. Maybe I missed that. Does the extension looks into things like Matplotlib to see if there are contrast issues or color blindness or?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We also wanted to highlight that. So there are like mainly two types of like cell types, are Markdown and code. Like right now, we only focus on Markdown because like we've like when we first kind of steer like the direction, we thought like that's like another like huge complicated issue because like I guess like those like that are primary responsible for those are like the libraries itself. So and we found out that like we couldn't do much at the early stages, and it was like up to them, but we would kind of want to like if detection and like everything works like really good in the markdown cell for the markdown cells, we would definitely want to go beyond that and tackle like code issues as well.
Nice. If there's a repo, I can open issue for you guys to kind of help you a little bit. Another thought I have is, so this is like pretty interactive, and if you working with compliance by universities, right, it might need more like a automated like bot, or I think in like things like the Dependabot or GitHub Actions, some form like of the same functionality packaged as a bot, working more automatically, kind of trying to fix some things en masse might be useful. So that's another suggestion for you guys.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah. Thanks for using the JupyterLab marketplace. It's the first time I saw someone like looking at their numbers there. So cool. That's it for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Constantine covered having a CI integration. So you render the notebook, or if you can even just tell from the output metadata in the notebook, and then just have a bunch of issues. You know, anytime a commit to the notebook is done, you've got a CI test that runs on it and flags a bunch of issues. Would be the way to scale up what you're doing.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thanks, Jason. And we also consider to Constantine's point, like about using AI. So one of the things we were initially thinking is like, can we send the IPONB data to a AI model and make it detect accessibility issues and also sort of provide some fixes? But our proof of concept, like we weren't very successful with that. So we sort of felt like, okay, let's focus on targeted fixing of certain accessibility issues. But that's definitely a path to experiment in the future.
Yeah. AI is is limited in many ways at the moment. So
Yeah, and also like one reason why we wanted to like this to become like be like interactive is because like if we kind of automated this, like end user wouldn't have like full control of that, like we thought. So like because like for alt text or like for like many accessibility issues, like we believe that like the end user should like kind of like the input from the end user is like important, right? So
it's true. I've seen people kind of on the other side of the compliance where they had to, like, for example, not related to this, but to create subtitles for their whole lectures every week, and it was a huge burden on people. So, but definitely, yeah, AI doesn't know your context for alt text, right? It can also come up with like completely wrong alt text.
yeah, I think it'll be like used as like a best practice. So like if like a notebook content creator could like always use this extension like before publishing it, like it would be great. Instead of like having like 100 notebooks to audit at the same like all at the same time. Like yeah. But I think that's it for us. Yeah, go for it, Mike.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight two things. One is from Jeremy's plugin, JupyterLab Browser AI. And recently, I think he demonstrated adding alt text there as well. So might be interested in checking that out, or maybe collaborating with Jeremy. I think he couldn't join the call today. But also, someone mentioned matplotlib plots. There is actually a publication about exactly this thing for notebooks generating alt text from matplotlib code and graphics, I think. It's an archive. I don't know what happened to archive because the text is all like in a scary movie or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it just renders oddly for me. I don't know.
It's interesting. Thanks, Mike. I mean, it would be nice to go through these extensions because we also don't want to redo what others have already done and reuse the existing components. So any help on that front would be appreciated.
Thanks, Rod, and thanks, Simon, for sharing. It's really awesome to see, and it looks like yeah, a lot of people are making good use of it. So thank you for sharing your work. I think we are at time, so I am going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and